Hello, welcome back to RP-0 America. So we are bringing the Agathorn 4 lander down for hopefully a soft landing. The Agathorn 4 soft lander, if you're not quite sure why it's called that, watch the previous videos in this series for landing on the moon. I'm not quite sure what I'll call this because I think it's going to be a series of 4 or 5 videos. I just really like how the lunar surface looks with just the natural cascaded light because you can see the shadows. So if just seeing, say, there's a shadow there and there's bright light there, where would you guess the sun is? Would you guess the sun is to my left up in the sky or to my right in the sky? Well, it's very clear and beautiful and realistic that I can clearly tell just by looking at the shadows in the craters that the sun is up over there. And if I, bam, if I light up this craft really brightly, it also makes the ground look really bright. So there we go. And yeah, the dune texture I find just a little odd on the moon, as I say many times in these videos, but with the light down, it actually looks, I can definitely see why Kill Ashley picked to put it on the moon. It definitely adds kind of a flavor and ability to see the ground as you approach it. So see how much we are increasing in speed as we approach. The moon has a much lighter gravity field than the Earth, but it's still substantial. We're still coming down pretty quick towards the moon. And so actually watching how this number changes might be a good way for me to kind of create my own mental suicide burn counter. So if I follow down the surface retrograde, surface retrograde, we're slowing down. So this time, hopefully at some point we'll start increasing, or at least that will give me a sign that I'm not going to smash into the surface with Delta V still in my tanks. Hopefully. So I've luckily avoided any obvious and weird looking craters, or at least from this altitude. It looks like there might be a crater right there below me. So let's say I was at risk and I knew I was at risk of smashing into the ground without enough time to stop. So rather than spending some of my energy to null out this horizontal velocity, I could just point straight down. And so now all of my velocity would be going into making it take longer until I smash into the ground. So that's one strategy. That's one thing to do. But in practice, I think I might be safe. It's hard to say. Did these engines? Oh wow, right. Did I have? What's going on? I thought for some reason I thought I saw this as 2 Gs at some point, but I must be incorrect. So right now it's showing half a G. Yeah, I don't know, I must have been looking at a different number, because when I pulse this or anything, or if I turn on and off the precise RCS. So yeah, there we go. So see the time increased? So that's a sign that I know I'm not going to smash into the surface. That is a good sign. It's because I'm bleeding off enough velocity to keep that time from going to zero before I've killed my entire velocity. So that is a good sign. I'm rapidly running out of hydrazine, and it is making me nervous that I'm still at 20 kilometers above the surface here. And I would be in a better situation if I had used that Aegina closer to the surface. That's why kind of having accurate numbers for these, particularly for suicide burn counter, is very useful to have. But unfortunately, I kind of have to mentally map my own, given what's going on here. Good. So I might run out of fuel before I hit the ground, but I'm not going to be running my engines at full speed when I hit the ground. I will at the very least have run out of fuel. So the kind of the mission I did here isn't one that the Americans actually did. They didn't use the Aegina to throw something, to make a slow, soft landing on the moon. It's actually a bit more similar to what one of the Luna missions was. They used something that to me kind of seemed, it burned similar fuels and seemed similar to their light engines that they had on like the Vostok service module, and they used that to land something softly on the moon, very, very softly. It ended up being a metal ball that used an airbag for the final deceleration. Oh, now I'm getting worried about those times. I should have kept a better eye on it. But now we're down to 6 kilometers, and I may hit the ground. So the thing I did wrong here, I totally could have throttled, damn. So the thing I did wrong here was that I should have kept a much closer eye on that time rather than talking, because I might still have some pretty substantial velocity when I hit the ground here. We will find out. Oh, that number's increasing. That number is increasing. So I should never kill, because ignitions don't matter for this engine. I really should never kill the engines. I should just be throttling down. So what I usually do is try to get rid of my horizontal velocity, so I'm just heading straight down, and then point my craft so it's straight up. Sorry, I'm just used to doing that with the 1 kilonewton thruster, where it doesn't throttle, but it's infinitely restartable. Okay, so it looks like I'm, oh wow, look at my delta V. So right before I hit the ground, pulse, yes. So a little bit of bounce from that pulse, and I might wobble over. Successful soft landing. So this was just a simulation to see if the craft could in practice do it with my terrible, terrible skills, and I did it with just a little bit of cheating. I just added literally enough RCS to do the 1 delta V in the course correction maneuver. And I locked the battery of this so it didn't get expended on the way to the moon. In practice, I might have been able to spend some of this, because I didn't need this much power for the final mission to the moon. So I might be able to do it without, I might actually not lock this and see how it expends, because if it runs out of power, I can just use HyperEdit. I am a big, dirty cheater. But this has been RP-0 America. We have successfully landed on the moon with oh so small an amount of hydrazine in our tanks. It is ridiculous. So if I had burned the Agena a bit closer to the surface, I would have had more delta V for those final maneuvers. If I had, rather than pulsing my engines and distracting myself by talking all the time, I could have definitely been a bit more efficient and landed with a little bit more fuel. And if you land with a little bit of fuel, that means you could make your payload heavier. So I could probably add just a science module or 2 to my craft in practice. So first, let me review telemetry. So just above the far side basin, so let's send some science out. Lo and behold, telemetry analysis. So even just from the little probe being able to send science back to the Earth, we're getting a not too bad amount of science, considering it only takes a few days to get from the Earth to the moon. Let me light up the craft so you can see the whole thing. But yeah, this has been our successful first soft landing of a super small probe. So, and you can you can watch my videos back to see how heavy of a lifter I needed to do that to do this, and what process I used. So I only had a 2 light Agena, and avionics. I didn't discuss the avionics that much, but that really makes it more difficult to kind of vary a ton from the design that I used, because this stage was controllable by the avionics in this. And the what was it? I think it was a Delta avionics unit that I had on the Agena was kind of just enough to control, that as well. I maybe could have made it bigger, but the issue with that was ignitions. So if I had a stage between that and this, it would have still needed to hold on to an avionics unit, which means it's going to have to eat power, and that's more mass that you're going to have to carry to do whatever you're going to do with it. Like in the past, I've used an avionics unit and a solid motor to slow down shortly before the lunar surface, rather than bringing the whole Agena along. So there are definitely variations on this design you can use for this early tech lander. I find the much more beautiful and elegant way to do it was with Radarnik's Luna craft. I don't recall which Luna it is offhand, but it's very clearly it's a sphere. It does the final descent of a couple dozen meters per second or so. It puffs up its airbags and it bounces on the surface a bit. But it's a much more nice and elegant method to do it. But if you want to build something procedural or historical or a combination like I did, this is another route you can use. So thanks for watching RP-0 America. It's been lovely. This is an accomplishment I haven't done in a while, even though it's just in a simulation and I cheated a little bit. I'm pretty happy with that design. So next video I will probably actually have built this, take very careful attention to do good ascent, and then I'll do an actual landing of this craft, because right now this is technically a very long, very expensive simulation, but I did it all in one take. No saves, no reverts, so it's pretty good. It's a balance of what I'm going to have when I actually do it. I actually spend the money in a real mission to do it. Thanks for watching. RP-0 America. Goodbye.